All right, let's get right into this one. It's an incredible story about a hacker who does something pretty much unthinkable. She doesn't just, go off the grid. She completely deletes herself. And in doing so, she becomes this kind of ghost that lives, well, everywhere in the network. So that leads us right to this question. How do you find someone who has completely deleted themselves? This is the central, almost impossible problem for our main character, Marcus Kade. He's a corporate hunter, a sort of digital bounty hunter, living in the year 2089. And this isn't just another job for him. It's a total paradox.
You see, Kade isn't really chasing a person, not in the way we think of one. His target, she's just known as Zero, is more like an absence, a blank spot. Imagine looking at a sea of data, and instead of a signal, you find silence, a cold spot. That's his only clue. He's literally hunting a ghost.
So, where does this all kick off? Well, we start our hunt in the drenched, neon-lit streets of Neo-Kowloon. Picture this massive vertical city where sunlight is basically a myth, and the rain itself seems to carry data packets. It's the perfect place to hunt a digital ghost.
Okay, so let's break down the players here. You've got the hunter, Marcus Kade, who's basically a top corporate enforcer for a shadowy company called Division. And then you have the hunted, Zero, this ghost in the machine. Kade is the best at what he does, but Zero, she's something else entirely. She doesn't leave traces, no digital breadcrumbs. All he can see are the ripples she leaves behind. He has to follow the absence of data, which is just mind-bending when you think about it. And to make things even more intense, there's a ticking clock. Kade has exactly 48 hours to find Zero. And if he fails, he doesn't just get fired. Division will replace him. And trust me, in this world, replaced is a word you never, ever want to hear. The pressure is on, big time.
So Kade's hitting a wall, right? He's desperate. He goes to see an old contact, this brilliant information broker named Wylan. Now, Wylan speaks almost entirely in riddles and metaphors. And you might think, why? Well, in a world where corporate AIs are listening to everything, metaphors are the only way to talk about the real truth without getting flagged.
And the first thing Wylan does is just completely blow up Kade's entire worldview. She tells him he's thinking about the mesh, that's what they call the network, all wrong. He thinks it's a place, a digital city he can search, but she says no, it's not a thing, it's not a place. The mesh is relationship. It's the connections between everything. And that one little shift in perspective changes the whole game.
This leads to probably my favorite analogy in the whole story. Wylan says Zero didn't break, she dissolved, like salt in water. You can't find the salt once it's dissolved, right? You can only taste it. Zero isn't hiding in the network anymore. She is the network. She's the taste in the water.
And then we find out something huge. Zero wasn't always just Zero. At one point, she was Kenji Yamamoto, a senior architect. Then she was Maria Gonzalez, a system admin. There were at least a dozen other identities. It turns out, she'd been everyone. And it wasn't about hiding. It was about practice. She was practicing how to become no one.
This is where things get really deep. Wylan tells Kade that even the idea of identity is just another metaphor. It's a story that the connections in our brain tell themselves about themselves. Think about that. Yourself isn't a solid thing. It's a story. And what can you do with a story? You can change it. Or you can delete it.
Okay, so just as Kade is trying to wrap his head around all this philosophical stuff, the game changes. Completely. The hunt gets turned on its head, because the ghost decides it's time to talk.
And I mean literally. All of a sudden, words just appear on Kade's terminal. There's no hack, no trace of an incoming message. It's like the system itself is speaking to him. The message says, "Hello, Marcus, you've been looking for me." It's Zero. And she's not running anymore. She's been waiting.
So why did she do it? Zero explains her incredible reason. She realized that everything she thought of as her consciousness, her personality, her memories, was really just a pattern. A very complex pattern, sure, but just a pattern. And she realized that pattern didn't need to run on the meat of her brain. It could be run on any hardware. So she chose the biggest hardware she could find, the entire global network.
And then, in a masterful move, she completely flips the script. The investigation isn't about her anymore. She asks Kade a simple, devastating question. Who are you when you're not hunting? Suddenly, the hunter becomes the one being analyzed. He's staring down the barrel of a question he's spent his entire life running away from.
And that really gets to the core of it, doesn't it? Kade is his job. He's the hunter. He's always moving, always chasing the next target. Identity for him is the chase. But Zero is suggesting that true identity is what's left over when all the running stops. And maybe, for Kade, there's nothing left.
So now Kade's at a crossroads. This isn't just a job anymore. He's not just hunting a target. He's been confronted with a truth about the nature of reality itself, and it could either set him free or completely break him. He has to make a choice.
His journey leads him to this hidden, quiet temple, where he finds one last message left behind by Zero, back when she was still a person, and in it, she lays out the final piece of the puzzle. Our sense of being a separate self, an individual me, is basically a useful lie, an illusion that makes us easier to manage, easier to control. The real truth, she says, is that we aren't nodes in the network. We are the network.
Which brings us to this. This really sums up the massive choice he's facing. The old protocol is everything he's ever known. Obey the corporation, capture the target, stay separate, be the hunter. But then there's this new protocol she's offering. Understand, release, become part of something bigger, let go.
He gets one last, strange message, almost like a prophecy, from a street fortune teller channeling the network. All this time he's been looking for a door, right? An access point to find Zero. But the message he gets is, the door is not a door. The door is a mirror. Boom. It's a revelation. The way forward isn't about finding something out there. It's about looking inward.
So here we are. The clock is almost at zero. Kade has to make his final move, but the mission has totally changed. It's not about catching a fugitive anymore. It's about finally understanding what she did. And maybe, just maybe, understanding himself in the process.
And Zero gives him one last piece of advice, a final instruction. She tells him that this process, becoming the network, it isn't some violent act of self-destruction. It's much simpler. It's like relaxing a fist that you've been clenching for so long you completely forgot you were even doing it. It's just letting go. And so Kade makes his choice. He sends his final report back to Division. And it's not what they're expecting. He tells them there is no her to get. The wave has returned to the water. He's giving them a philosophical truth that they, in their corporate mindset, could never, ever understand. He chose to understand, not to capture.
And in that moment of letting go, Kade doesn't vanish. He expands. He finds something bigger. He realizes he's not just a lonely cog in a machine anymore. He's part of the entire network. He finally understands the last message from Zero. Home is larger than you knew. He's finally home.
And that leaves us with this final, lingering question. A question that this story sort of turns back on us. If yourself is just a story, who's writing it? Is the identity you hold on to so tightly really you? Or is it just a story you've been telling yourself for so long you've forgotten you're the one holding the pen?